We have a series of workshops dedicated really to increase the capacity and the capabilities of the entrepreneurs here in Sarawak. Last month, we did our first workshop, which is on startups. How do you build a successful startup or any business, really? So, what are the six pillars or six ways to do that? And today, we are going to talk about innovation, which is also a really key part of building a successful business, right? Master 5 innovation tools to disrupt the market. We're really excited to get the session going. But before that, let me just get some of the housekeeping stuff out of the way first, right? So that we can have the best experience here together. The first one, because we are on Zoom and I believe that we are also on Facebook Live. I really want to say hi to everyone here on Facebook as well. But because we are on Zoom and it's a virtual workshop, we will appreciate it if you can remain on mute so that everybody can hear the speaker clearly. All right. But if you have any questions or any comments or anything you want to say, feel free, please, just comment down below in the Zoom chat box. Or for those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, the comment section is available. We have virtual assistant there as well to help you with anything that you need. All right, we would love to get to know you and to chat with you. And actually, the whole session today was created to make it a little bit more interactive. I know Zoom is not created, for the best two-way communication, but we have dedicated this session and created and customized it to be as engaging as possible. So there are actually going to be a few polls and questions down the road. So feel free, really, just put your thoughts down into the chat box. We would love to hear from you. All right, now second, we do have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of today's workshop because I'm sure throughout the session you would have some burning questions about innovation and disruption, right? So if you have any questions, you can go to this link on the screen. Hang on, sorry. Okay, yeah, this one. bit.ly/INVT, it stands for innovation lah. INVT Slido, or you can scan the QR code there. You can put down any questions that you want at any point in time throughout the workshop. All right, you can ask it anonymously as well. And there is also a voting system there. So if somebody have already asked a question that you have in mind, you can vote it. We will start from the most voted question, and we will go down from there. Okay? Yeah, I think that's all. But before we get into the sharing, we do want to take a Wi-Fi with you, all right? With the people here on Zoom. If you can on your video so that we can take a quick screenshot, a Wi-Fi with you, because we really just want to commemorate this workshop here together. So I know Malaysians are a little bit shy. You can off your video after that, it's fine. But just for the next 1 minute, just give your widest and biggest smile. We would love to take a Wi-Fi with you. I'm going to count to 3. Okay, then my colleague here, Rizal, he's going to help us take a screenshot. Okay? All right, shall we? We are looking to that camera, right, Mike? The one with Kartik, so that we can see Kartik as well. All right. Okay, I'm going to count to 3. Just give a wider smile until I say it's done, okay? It will take a bit of time for the screenshot. All right, now 1, 2, 3. Smile. Keep smiling. Okay, guys, smiling again. All right. Okay, we are done. It's really so good to see all of you. It's so glad to have you guys here with us today. I really glad to see you and have you with us. Now, we have introduced ourselves. Now we would love for you to introduce yourself so that we can get to know you a little bit better and so that we can understand your business better as well. So if you can just put it into the Zoom chat box or the Facebook comment section, your name, and also, what do you do, all right? What business are you in? We would love to get to know that so that we can better understand how to help you as well later throughout the session. And as the names and the business, or what business are you in, are coming in the Zoom chat or the Facebook comment section, I would love to have the speaker today, Kartik Siva himself, the chairman of Global Entrepreneur Exchange. He's a world-renowned strategist, advisor to government, a nation branding expert. He's a leadership mentor to CEOs, global CEOs. So we would love to have Kartik here just to say hi to the entrepreneurs in Sarawak.
Hi guys, delighted to be here. Look forward to talking with you.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna have Karthik to talk a little bit more later, but just to say hi, hi, we have Ben here. Ben is a student from UCTS. I did hear that we have quite a number of students here, which is really exciting. I wish I would have like a workshop like this to attend to and learn from when I was a student. We have Denise from building construction, steel industry. We have Michael construction as well. Oh, we have quite a few people from construction today. We have people from e-commerce, e-learning platform. Hi, Haliana, also a student and also a part-time baker. Wow. All right, it's really great to meet every single one of you. Please keep it coming, in the Zoom chat or the Facebook comment section. Without further ado, we will dive into the session today. But before that, do fix your eyes on the screen as we officially introduce Karthik Siva.
I think it's very important, not only for business, for politics, for anybody that seriously want to do something, is to ask the big questions.
When Karthik first asked the question, does your business matter? It actually stirred up something within me. So I think this is something that I should be looking into.
What a tool set to meet the challenges that we face. Who do we find that can teach us how to grow our company?
I want to express my thanks to your chair, Karthik Shiva, and also compliment Karthik's fantastic leadership.
Every business, every entrepreneur must ask this question: what is the real problem? Just imagine if your business disappears, will people truly miss you?
Think about what happened with Singapore. Then you can understand why I was so excited to be invited by Karthik again to be here.
If you want your business to truly make an impact, you've got to make it matter. A big hi to all the entrepreneurs and students out there. I'm delighted to do this session for you guys and also get your questions. So thank you for tuning in. I literally promise you that you will walk away with a lot of insights and a lot of solutions to your own business. The topic I'm going to cover is a topic that's connected with innovation. It's very specific. Innovation is very big and broad. I'm going to focus on the 5 tools of disruptive innovation. What are these 5 tools and how can you apply it in your business? So that's going to be the focus of my session here this afternoon. I'd like to make 3 promises to you. The first promise is this: after the end of this session, you will walk away looking at innovation very, very differently. The second promise I'd like to make to you is this: you will walk away from this session looking at your business very differently. And the final promise I'd like to make to you is this: you will walk away not only understanding 5 tools of disruption, but you can definitely apply at least 2 tools in your business and hopefully see results from that. So that's really what I'd like to achieve in this short session we've got today. So let's get right into it. The topic is disruption. 5 tools to create disruption. Now, when you talk about innovation, it's very important to understand what is the real distinction between invention and innovation. Now, most people mix the two up, and it's a little dangerous to mix the two up because both these terms mean very specific things. So let's look at what is the real difference between innovation, and invention. What is invention? Invention is the creation of a new body of knowledge. It is the creation of a new technology. It's completely new. It doesn't have any obvious commercial use. Consumers don't know about it. So that is really what invention is all about. And if you can look at your screen, you see this picture of the first vacuum cleaner that was invented. It was invented by this guy called Hubert Cecil Booth. And it's a massive contraption, you can see. And obviously, nobody is going to use a contraption like this today. But this was what was created in 1901 when he prototyped this particular invention. So you get a picture of invention. It's the creation of a new knowledge. Now let's look at innovation. I'm going to use the same example of this creation of a new contraption called vacuum cleaner. Now this is what innovation is. The gentleman that you see on the screen, his name is James Dyson. He created the world's first bagless vacuum cleaner. It's a very sleek, light, high technology vacuum cleaner. It's also very premium. It's stunning to look at. And this is a vacuum cleaner that made James Dyson very famous, and he also ended up becoming a billionaire. You see, the difference between innovation and invention is pretty much this. Invention has commercial use. It is something that can be applied. It is something that the market can use. But an invention is really the creation of a new knowledge or new technology or new technique. And often most inventors die broke. But most innovators end up getting very, very rich because they apply the invention in a rather unique and novel way so that the market can use it. Let me give you one more example here. The guy who created laser is a guy called Theodore Maiman. He used to work for the Hughes Research Labs in the 1960s. This was created in the 1960s. Laser actually means light amplification by the stimulated emission of radiation. It's actually an acronym. And you can see that contraption, rather complicated looking. It is a way of focusing light in a manner that light can get very, very intense and can be focused on a particular spot. Now that is an invention. It happened in the 1960s, like I said. Now let's take innovation here. If you look at laser, laser has multiple applications. If you look at the screen, it can be applied in surgeries. It can be applied to cut steel. It can be applied as a lithography to actually craft things on metal. It is actually used in your DVDs and CDs that you use. I can keep going on. It is used in your laser pointer when you make presentations. You see, these are all innovations. I hope I made this point very, very clear that there is a fundamental distinction between invention and innovation. And if you are into business, you must know this primary distinction. Now let's go on to another very important topic. What exactly is innovation? Now this is a term that's used pretty much everywhere. In the academic circles, people use it. People use it in governments. People use it in businesses. Technology people use it, and so on and so forth. So what exactly is innovation? Innovation, very simply, is this. It is solving problems in new ways. So at the heart of innovation, what you're really doing is solving problems. If I were to define it, I would say innovation is a new way of solving an old problem. It can also be a new way of solving a new problem. So I hope you got this definition of innovation. Now let's go to something very, very important: solving problems. There are very well-known brands that almost all of us are aware of. Let's look at one of these brands. It's called Uber. Pretty much everybody here has used Uber. In fact, Grab, as a brand, largely used the business model of Uber and used it for Southeast Asia. Before Uber came into the market, when you wanted to ride a taxi or get into a taxi or hail a taxi, often your heart started beating very fast. Why? Because you did not know how much the cab driver may charge you. You did not know whether the cab driver was reliable. You did not know whether the car was actually clean. There was often a little bit of risk involved when you got into a cab, right? And often you sometimes even felt when you went to a different city, maybe it was New York or Chicago, when you got into a cab, you felt, oh my God, it looks very, very unsafe. So you had all these pain points. But when Uber launched, they pretty much solved all these problems. When you hail an Uber, which you can do in 30 seconds flat, just like you can do it with Grab, you pretty much know what cab is going to pick you up. Is it a Toyota? Is it a Lexus? Is it a Mercedes? You know exactly what the cab fare is going to be. You know that the driver has got a great rating. The driver knows your name, and the driver knows where you are going. You can see that Uber has actually solved several problems with its platform and offering. This is a classic case of disruptive innovation. Why disruptive innovation? Because it's a very, very dramatic and new solution. And it solves not one problem, but multiple problems faced by people that want to hail a cab. So Uber is worth, in terms of valuation, more than $100 billion simply because it solved a huge, massive, global problem. I hope you get this very, very clear, that some of the most well-known brands in the world are well-known because they solve big problems. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of time and ask you this question. What exactly do you mean by disruption? This is a term that's used in innovation. There are two kinds of innovations. There is an innovation called incremental innovation, where the innovation is slow, it is steady, it's year on year. Like if you take Coke, they keep innovating, but these are very small and systematic innovations. It's incremental. Like they might launch a big bottle, they may launch Coke in a can, they may launch a cherry Coke, they may launch Coke Zero, and so on and so forth. All these are very incremental innovations. Now, many big businesses that have lasted for years and years are experts at incremental innovation. Now, let's look at disruptive innovation. Disruption or disruptive innovation is about dramatically changing the rules of the game. That's why it's called disruption. Rupture means to break. Dis means away. So it means to break away from the existing rules of the market. Now, not only are you breaking rules, you're challenging the existing rules of a particular category and of a particular marketplace. That is the essence of disruption. Now, what I'd like you guys to understand is this through this example. This is a well-known example of a watch brand called Swatch. Everybody has probably worn a Swatch watch. In the 1970s and even 80s, when you said watch, it was always a steel watch. It was made of metal. It was made of titanium. It was normally a Swiss watch or a Japanese watch like a Citizen, or it was Seiko, it was Rolex, it was Omega, it was Longines, and so on and so forth. The watch was very expensive. And you probably bought one or two watches in your entire lifetime. And you probably, maybe your father even passed down the watch to the son, right? Now, the watch that you bought in the 70s and 80s were almost always metallic. They were formal. They were quite conservative. They were serious. They were not fashion items. Suddenly, when Swatch launched, they disrupted the market. They came out with a watch that was fun. It was not serious. They came out with a watch that was casual. It was not conservative. They came out with a watch that was fashionable. They came out with a watch that was even disposable. In fact, you could dispose this watch every season. You could drop it in autumn and buy something else in spring, and then another Swatch watch in summer. Now, Nicholas Hayek was the man that helped create this Swatch brand. And Swatch is an amazing example of disruptive innovation. And a lot of people don't know this. Today, Swatch is one of the world's largest brands. They own brands like Omega, Harry Winston, and a whole raft of Swiss watch brands. And they not only changed the watch industry, they completely changed the rules of the game. So remember what I said, disruption is about challenging the rules of the marketplace. What I'm now going to focus on are 5 tools that pretty much anyone can use and apply to disrupt the marketplace. And I made this promise earlier, and the promise is this: I will make these 5 tools so simple that when you walk away from this session, you will not only understand these tools very clearly, you can probably use at least 2 of these tools immediately the moment you walk outside the door. So that's going to be my promise to you. And let's look at these 5 tools to create market disruption. Let me go to the first tool. Amplification. That's going to be the first tool. The second tool I'm going to talk about is called reframing. The third tool I'm going to talk about is called minimization. The fourth tool is going to be called conceptual blending. And the fifth tool is called process re-engineering. Don't worry about these terms. I'm going to explain them so simply that you're going to get it immediately. Let me start with the first tool that you see on the screen. It's called amplification. So what does amplification mean? Very simple. Amplification means taking a solution and expanding it. It is taking a product or an idea and making it bigger. It is taking a product or an idea or even a solution and dramatically enhancing it. That is the essence of amplification. The best way to explain it is to actually show you an example, and here you go. What you see on the screen looks like a room. It looks like a hotel room. rather luxurious. But actually, it's not a hotel room. This is actually the first class of Emirates Airlines. Now, obviously, when you buy first class and you travel Emirates, you're going to pay a lot of money. It could be 15 to 20,000 US dollars, depending on where you fly. But this is the kind of space you're going to get. You know, in the past, when you flew first class, all you got was a very big legroom and space in your seat. But today, it's not just about legroom. You literally get a whole big room to yourself, almost like a hotel room. And this is an example of amplification. Let me give you another example closer to home, and this is McDonald's. You've got the cheeseburger, which is a rather big burger. And McDonald's introduced the double cheeseburger. And as you guys know, this is really how it looks like. It's a massive burger, double the size, and I'm sure it's double the calories as well. And that is an example of amplification. So I hope you understand amplification very, very clearly. It's a very simple tool, and the example I gave you is also ridiculously simple. And this is really how you go about doing amplification.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Now, I'm sure amplification is quite a commonly used disruption tool, right? And we would love to hear from you as well now. What do you think, all right, for your business, the business that you are in right now, do you think amplification can be an effective tool for a business, all right? For those of you who are on Zoom, I'm going to just launch a poll. If you think that amplification is going to be effective for you, then just click yes. If you think amplification may not be an effective tool for your business, then just click no, all right? Now, I'm seeing that some of the answers are coming in. All right, I'm just going to give a few more seconds. But so far, the result looks like a majority of the people here on Zoom, they think that amplification can be an effective tool for your business, all right? For those of you who are watching on Facebook as well, do put it down into the comment section. We would love to hear from you, all right? Okay, now, 83% of the people here thinks that amplification is an effective tool for their business, and 17% think that it is not. Now, I'm sure because we have only touched on amplification for a little while, suppose if we just have a little bit more time to reflect, to really think about, you know, Kati was just saying that amplification is simply magnifying the solution that you are giving to your customers, right? If a Big Mac or a burger can apply amplification, I'm sure that a lot of the businesses here actually can apply amplification as well. So do take down the notes, you know, do think about it a little bit more, how amplification can help your business and your customers. All right, now we're going to move into the second tool. It's called reframing. Now, this is an interesting one, Karthik. Would you like to take?
Absolutely. Now, let's look at the second tool. It's called reframing. Now, let me explain what reframing actually means. It's got the word frame in it. Frame means something through which you look at things. So reframing really means looking at the problem differently. Looking at the problem with a different lens, using a different frame to deliver a solution. In other words, when you change your perspective and look at the problem very differently, you can call this particular way of coming out with innovation reframing. Now, let's look at 2 or 3 examples to drive this point home. Take a look at the screen. You see books on one side and you see Kindle on the other side. I'm sure every single one of you reads books, and I'm sure many of you probably have used a Kindle. Now, I'm a very big reader of books. I'm a bibliophile. But here is a problem. Every time I travel, I get so greedy that I like to buy 2 or 3 books when I travel. And one of the challenges with that is that books are rather heavy, and they take a lot of weight, they take a lot of space, and it's actually very difficult to cart them around when you're taking a flight, right? So when you look at a book differently and ask this question, do people want a book or do people want to read? Suppose you ask a question like this, the answer becomes very simple. Actually, people are not looking for books. People are looking for knowledge. People are looking to read something, right? Book is just a delivery channel. Book is just a platform that helps you read. What if you can read a book or you can read without the need for a book? Now, that kind of thinking is called reframing. So the solution was Kindle. So Jeff Bezos asked this big question. People want to read, but they don't necessarily want to read a book. So how do you create a solution? By reframing this whole challenge. And voila, the solution was Kindle. So it's pretty much as simple as that. Look at the problem differently. Look at it with a different perspective. Wear a different lens and look at the solution. Use a different filter and look at the problem. View the problem with a different frame. And voila, you're going to get an entirely different solution. Or you're going to define the problem very, very differently. Now, that is the essence of reframing. Let me give you another example. I'm just going to show this example to you. This is a visual example of reframing. A lot of people in Southeast Asia love to take noodles with soup, right? Now, how do you handle that? Can you take it with a spoon? Can you take it with a fork? Normally, you use either a spoon or a fork or a chopstick. That is always a very big challenge when you eat a noodle soup. And what you see is actually a solution where a soup can be taken with a spoon, which also has a device like a fork. So that's really how you go about doing it. And this visual is a great example of reframing. And here is another example. A lot of us like to take tea or coffee, but we love to take tea or coffee with biscuits. You're holding biscuits on one hand, and you're holding a cup and saucer on the other hand. And it becomes very unwieldy to eat the biscuit and drink this coffee. And here is a simple device where the biscuit can actually be slotted into the cup itself, and you can drink the coffee and eat the biscuit without feeling awkward. Now, this is a great example of reframing the problem and coming out with a new way of solving the problem. So I shared with you 3 examples of reframing, and the essence of reframing is to look at the problem using a different lens, filter, and point of view. I hope you got what reframing is all about, because it's very, very simple when you define reframing with simple examples.
Yeah, that's great. Now, I really like how Karthik mentioned reframing is just looking into your business differently. That's it, right? Now, back to you guys. Can you think of one way that you can reframe your business? All right, we would love to hear from you. I'm going to launch that poll again. Just click yes if you can think of just one way. If you can figure out just one way of looking into your business differently? All right? You can click no as well if for now you can't think of one. Okay. I think majority of the people here, they were saying that they can think of one way to reframe their business. That's really great. We're really so glad to hear that. And if you feel that reframing is a tool that will be effective for your business, now I want you to think about this. How would your business look like after you have applied reframing? Or what kind of impact would it have, not just to your business, but to your customers? Right? Because like what Karthik mentioned just in the beginning, innovation is about solving problems. So what kind of problems, what kind of solution can you reframe for your customers? Right, now we're going to move on to the next one, minimization or elimination. Karthik?
Yes. Now let's look at the third tool. It's called minimization or elimination. Now, minimization or elimination is the exact opposite of amplification. If amplification is about magnifying the solution or expanding the solution or making the solution bigger, minimization is about making the solution smaller. It is about removing everything that is unnecessary from the solution and make it simple, easy, and stripped down. In other words, it's about minimizing the solution. The very term explains the essence of the meaning of minimization. The best way to understand this is through a couple of examples. Let's look at the first example here. On the screen, you've got two phones. One is a Nokia phone, which was launched sometime in 2007. I think it was called the N95. It was the internet-enabled phone. And the phone that you see on the right is the first iPhone that was launched. Now, if you really look at it, both phones are almost the same size. But the iPhone dramatically minimized all the unnecessary features from the Nokia phone. The iPhone removed the entire dial pad, which you needed to press to make a call or send a message. They completely removed all the knobs from a phone. They just had one knob to switch on the phone and switch off the phone. And they converted the whole screen into a dial pad, and the whole screen was the phone. So this is a classic example of minimization, where you take a problem, eliminate all the unnecessary features, and create a solution that works for a customer. You can eliminate all the unnecessary features, or you can reduce all the unnecessary bells and whistles from the solution and offer a straightforward, minimized solution. Now, that is the essence of minimization. Let me further expand this with another example here. If you look at the screen, what you see is a car called Nano. Now, this car was launched roughly 15 years ago in India by the Tata Group. And the founder, rather the chairman of the group, had this very big question. And his question was this: most Indians travel in two-wheel drives, either a motorcycle or a scooter. Is it possible to create a car that gives safety, that is low in cost, and protects the driver, whilst at the same time, is it possible to create a car that is really, really affordable to the hundreds of millions of Indians who cannot afford a car? That was the big question that was asked. So they came out with this solution called Nano. And you can see it on the screen. The Nano car was a very, very small car on the outside, but it was fairly big on the inside. 4 people could sit inside this car. The car cost less than 2,500 US dollars. Most of the car avoided steel. It did not have air conditioning. It only had one wiper. It did not have a side view mirror, and so on and so forth. By eliminating a lot of steel, they created a light car, they created a small car, and they created an incredibly affordable car. This was the world's most affordable car, about 2,000 to 2,500 US dollars. So this is a fantastic example of minimization and elimination, where you pretty much eliminate a lot of features not needed. A lot of you might say, but look here, Karthik, how can you have a car without much steel? How can you have a car without a rear view mirror? How can you have such a light car? Isn't it really a car? Are you sure it's really a car? Absolutely. This one was offered to the riders of motorbikes and scooters. So it was a safer motorbike, a safer scooter. It was far more affordable than any car you could think of. So this was a radical solution using elimination as a strategy, minimization as a strategy. So there you go. Elimination and minimization is about reducing the solution in such a manner that you only offer what is absolutely necessary and completely eliminate what is unnecessary to a particular target segment.
All right. Wow, that is really so interesting. I was previously questioning this as well. It's like a car without rear mirror, without aircon. I would die, I mean, with the heat here in Malaysia. But it really does, if you take a look at it, if you compare it to a motorcycle, it is far more superior than a motorcycle, right? And that was the problem that they are trying to solve. So that is really so great. We're going to move into a second tool, right? This is really an interesting one. Conceptual blending, I think. What's that?
Wonderful. So the fourth tool we're going to look at now is called conceptual blending. What exactly is that? Conceptual blending is about taking ideas from multiple categories and bringing them together in an entirely new or different category. That is conceptual building. Concept means idea, blending means mixing together. So when you mix together ideas from different categories, you get this new tool called conceptual blending. The best way to explain this is through an example. Here you go. 30 to 40 years ago, when you traveled, it was a very big burden. You needed a suitcase that you had to lug around. It was heavy, and you had to literally drag it or lift it. And there was this man called Bernard Sado. In fact, you can see his picture in the middle of this visual. He was traveling to Puerto Rico, he along with his wife, and he had 4 pieces of luggage. It was very difficult to carry them and cart them. And he looked at this large trolley at this railway station where 40 to 50 bags were put on this big trolley, and this trolley had multiple wheels, and there was this porter who was dragging this trolley which had all these wheels with a lot of baggage placed on them. And suddenly he was inspired, and he had this idea. And his idea was very simple, and he said, what if I added wheels to baggage, to my luggage? Wouldn't that be very easy to carry my baggage around, particularly when I travel? And that was a very, very big idea. It was a big question that he asked, and that translated into all the baggage that you see today, which necessarily have wheels. Today we take it for granted, but in the 1970s, you hardly had baggage which had wheels. This was when Bernard Sadow looked at it differently and brought an idea from a very, very different category, which was a big railway trolley that was used to cart a lot of bags. So he took an idea from there and he added that idea to his luggage, and suddenly it became a huge commercial success. And Bernard Sadow became very rich, and today we take this solution for granted. And this is a classic example of conceptual blending. Bring ideas from different categories, from different spaces, and use it in your particular business, and voila, you have conceptual blending.
Yeah. It sounds to me like conceptual blending has a little bit of reframing elements with it as well, right? Because
Absolutely.
it's like a different way of seeing it,
Yes.
and using a different way to combine it together.
Absolutely.
Wow, just
Absolutely.
a simple, just trolley, wheels on a bag, and it created history out of that. So cool.
Absolutely.
Now, moving on to the last tool for today, process re-engineering. Karthik, so would you like to take that on?
Okay. The fifth tool is process re-engineering. The terminology is very simple. You are re-engineering or transforming the process. A lot of examples I showed you were product-related innovations or disruptions. But here is an example where the big disruption or transformation is to the process, either of manufacturing or of supply chain and so on. Now, let me give you an example. This is the best way to explain this. The example I'm going to give you is Zara. Zara is one of the biggest brands in the world when it comes to clothing and fashion. In fact, it's the #1 brand as we speak. The secret to their success is a concept they employ called fast fashion. And Zara pioneered not fashion itself, but fast fashion. How did they do it? Let's take a look. In the past, if you went to a retail outlet, they probably had 2 or 3 collections. You had a spring collection, maybe a summer collection, or a winter collection. This was the maximum number of collections you could have, because it took a long time to design clothes, you had to manufacture them, you had to deliver them, and you had to place them in thousands of outlets across the world. But Zara, on the other hand, employed a strategy. They're often called the quick change artist. They could design in a day, they could send it to manufacturing and come out with a clothing line that could literally be launched in less than 22 days right into a retail outlet. So in other words, from design to manufacturing to transportation and to actual placement and even launch in a retail outlet, they could do it in less than 22 days. What that really means is this: they could track trends, design, and place and launch in record time. Now, this is a huge competitive advantage because a consumer has access not to 3 collections, but to 15 to 20 collections every single year. Now, this is a radical way of looking at fashion. And because they disrupted this whole process of delivering fashion, they called it fast fashion. So this is a great example of process re-engineering, where you're not actually changing the product, But what you're dramatically transforming is the process that's employed in delivering and manufacturing the product. As simple as that, process re-engineering. So, let's do one thing. Let's do a very, very quick recap. It's a short checklist of what we covered. We looked at the primary distinction between innovation and invention. I hope you got that. One is a dramatic introduction of a new knowledge, and the other one is the commercial application of it. The second one is this: innovation is a new way of solving an old problem. So that is really the definition of innovation. The third thing we saw was disruption. What is disruption? Disruption is about challenging the rules in a category, in a business space, or in a market. The fourth very big point that I'd like to summarize is this: disruption is really about challenging a whole category or the marketplace itself. And the final one is really a question I'm going to pose to all of you watching this program, this session. What tools do you think resonated with you? What tools do you think are extremely easy to apply in your business? And what tools you can apply immediately the moment you walk from the door? This is my big question to you, and I hope this short session gave you a lot of practical insights, but most important, like I promised you earlier, I hope you're able to apply at least 2 of these tools immediately into your business.
Right. Thank you so much, Karthik. We are really so thankful to learn all the 5 disruption tools today. And I'm sure a lot of you have gained back a lot of helpful insights and a better understanding of how disruption works. All right, we're going to move into the Q&A session really shortly. I'm sure all of you have some burning questions to ask. And if you do remember to scan the QR code on the screen, bit.ly/IMVT Slido, for the questions that you want to ask. Okay, you can ask that anonymously, or you can vote the questions that perhaps you would like to know the answer from as well. But before we go into that, I really feel like I want to share a story to you guys, which I think will be really beneficial for all of you. We have looked into the tools to disrupt the market. But do we have the tools to sustain our business or to build a sustainable business model in the first place? I have a friend of mine, she's in the beauty industry business, and she has about, I think, 3 to 4 retail outlets now, which made her actually one of the largest player in her field. And this year, actually, is her 10th year anniversary, right? But when I was speaking to her just a few months ago, she was telling me that she's really having a really huge challenge trying to find what's the right business model for her business. She's having a huge challenge in product market fit, and she's still wondering, when her cash flow will be positive, because even as of now, it is negative. And on top of that, because of the lockdown and the pandemic, her business couldn't operate for 5 months this year alone. So when I was just speaking to her, I could really see the pain in her eyes, when we were discussing if she should take the step to sustain her business, or should she use the time, or the resources that she still have left to sustain her people, her employees, for as long as she could. And because it is a beauty industry, it is a woman industry, majority of her employees are sole breadwinners, single mothers, right? Which is why it's really a tough call for her. And I'm sure it is not just her. Many of the entrepreneurs here in Malaysia, and perhaps even most of you as well watching, you had to make the tough call as well for the past couple of months. And Steve Blank, the founder of the Lean startup, a lot of people call him the father or the guru of startups. He defines startup like this, okay? He says that a startup is a temporary organization designed to search for a repeatable and scalable business model. But what's interesting is, if you take a look at the business landscape here in Malaysia, you will realize that actually a lot of the businesses are still stuck at the startup phase. It's either that or they're stuck at the small business phase. SME Corp in Malaysia, they define small businesses as a sales turnover of 300,000 ringgit to less than 3 million. For the service sector or for the manufacturing sector, 300,000 ringgit to less than 50 million ringgit, right? And a lot of the business here in Malaysia, they're either stuck at the startup phase or a small business phase even for decades, for many of them. Now, to build a sustainable business, I think the easiest way, there are many ways, but two easiest ways is this, all right? First, you have to understand what does it really take to build a sustainable and successful business, all right? Or in other words, what are the predictors of success, of business success? Or what are the success factors, right? And number two, how do you navigate through this choppy journey of building a startup? Because it is messy, there's so many problems you have to solve every single day. So a lot of the people, they try to look into three different ways, all right? The three main categories. Either they try to go for an MBA, which is really expensive, or they try to find the right mentor, right? But that is really hard to find. A mentor who really understands the business, a mentor who aligns with the principles that you have. Or the third one, they call it the seminar junkie or the course junkie, right? They try to go for many different workshops, many different seminars, and then they try to collect, the wisdom from different gurus and try to make it their own. But that takes up a lot of time. So, Karthik here, he has really taken the time to see how can we address all of these challenges, right? Because building a business, the success rate is really so low. But how can we do that? How can we help the entrepreneurs here in an affordable way? And how can they do that quick, right? In just under 3 hours, in fact. So this is why we have really come up with this digital course, this digital program called Startup X. I'm going to show it to you guys how that looks like. We have 29 videos, 7 worksheets, and just under 3 hours, you are able to bring back how to build your business successfully and sustainably. I have personally completed this course myself, and I actually written down a very long list of how the course has benefited me and impacted my business. But I'm just going to do 3, okay, with the interest of time. Now, the first one, Startup X has really designed to dramatically differentiate your business. Because for a lot of the people, myself included, for some reason we think that branding or finding a way to position yourself requires a lot of resources, all right? Or it is a luxury that is reserved for the large corporates. But that is really nothing can be further away from the truth, and that's what I've learned in the Startup X. Because in Startup X itself, Karthik teaches you how to differentiate and powerfully position yourself in a competitive market without any capital. Can you believe that? And the second one, which is the one that I was telling to my friend as well, it teaches you how to build a robust business model. Because a lot of the time, we have a really good product, really. We have great services, we have great products, but it is because of the business model that is wrong. We haven't found the breakthrough that we have been looking for. So how can you build a robust business model in an ever-changing market, right? Especially with the pandemic now, that has really shifted the whole business landscape here in Malaysia. And the last one, which is the one that has impacted me the most, is this. It really tells you how you can be a future ready. Because from the inevitable uncertainties in building a business to something as unforeseen as a global pandemic just hit right to your face, right? Startup X, what I really like about there are 2 videos. One, it talks about what are the future trends. This is based on real research and statistics by real experts, and also a step-by-step guide on how you can build a sustainable business even if the future is uncertain. So I think that is really, it will help you to be equipped and be prepared for all the different things that may come into your way, right? So that has really helped me a lot. So bringing home the disruption tools that we have learned today, all 5 of them, is really great. But if you were to bring back the strategies on how to build a sustainable business in Startup X, it's really going to be a lethal combination, all right? And if you miss that out, you will still be able to innovate your business, and that is really great. but perhaps you may still be unclear with the root problems or the urgent matters that your business must address immediately in order to be a sustainable and successful business. You know, Bloomberg, they did a research previously. 8 out of 10 businesses, it says, will fail within the first 18 months. That's a staggering fact. Now, wouldn't you think, or wouldn't you agree, that a smart entrepreneur will do whatever it takes, you know, to maximize their success rate and to minimize the failures of their business? Right, I'm just taking a wild guess. I think most of you will agree, or if not most of you will agree. And so for those of you who agree, we have a really good news for you. And this is really a never-before-seen promotion, which you already seen on the screen. I promise you, we have never done that ever before to any other states in Malaysia or anywhere around the world. This is only unique and exclusive to the entrepreneurs here in Sarawak. 40% off, all right, only for this weekend. And the original price is $97. So after 40% off is, I think, $58, which is about 200 ringgit. So 200 ringgit is really just a dinner money, all right, for many of the people here. So when you are ready to have a dinner that can also maximize the success of your business, all right, do scan the QR code here on the screen or to the link here below, bit.ly/R.A.I.S.E Startup X. No promo code needed, and it's only for you, only for the entrepreneurs here in Sarawak. It's really a special request by iCube Innovation, and only for this weekend alone, all right? You can have and enjoy a 40% off only for this weekend. Okay, and before we go into the Q&A as well, just one last thing, all right, one last thing. We do have a virtual workshop in 1 month time. So we talked about startup last month. We've talked about innovation today. We are going to talk about 10 questions every successful entrepreneur must ask themselves 1 month from now, all right? It's going to be a free virtual workshop, just like today. We wish to see you there in 1 month time, all right? You can scan the QR code here on the screen or key in the link below. It is capital sensitive, all right? So capital R and capital S. bit.ly/R.A.I.S.E strategy. Okay? We will hope to see you there, 1 month time virtual workshop, just like today. Now, we are going to look into the Q&A now. Let me just go to the next slide. All right. Now, Karthik, we have a lot of questions here coming in. And let's go with the most voted one for now, all right? The first question is, how to motivate the organization to be innovative?
Okay. See, there are actually many ways to do this. But I'll give the simplest way to motivate an organization to become innovative. You know?
That's great.
It is, see, people get motivated when they're inspired. As simple as that. And often, an organization is not innovative because the leaders are not innovative. And when a leader is not innovative, the managers are not going to be innovative, right? So I think, when a leader shows commitment to everybody that he or she believes in innovation and is willing to do whatever it takes, then the whole business starts to become innovative. So that's one, very simple way to look at it. Another way to look at it is when an organization is stuck or completely not innovative, bring in a mentor, a highly innovative mentor, or recruit someone who can bring new energy into the business. So these are the two quickest ways to accelerate innovation. Another way to do it is to learn these tools, master them, and apply them. Right? So it's pretty much as simple as that.
That's great. And just speaking about tools, the second most voted question here is this. Any examples of how the 5 tools can be applied specifically in the service sector? So it's like maybe the event or the creative industry. Is there any examples that you can come up with?
wow, you can,
So many ways.
it's like, I don't even know where to start. If you're talking in terms of, let's say, an event, right? The best way to give you an example is a company that I had in Singapore. It was called the Global Brand Forum, right? And normally, events bring in one or two big names, right? But this particular platform called the Global Brand Forum, we used to bring 15 big names in one event.
Wow.
Yes, we used to bring the Vice President of the United States, Al Gore, and then the Dean of the Harvard Business School, and then used to have Lee Kuan Yew, the Prime Minister of, the Minister Mentor of Singapore. Then we used to bring the founder of Wikipedia, the founder of another Fortune 500 company, another very, very big innovator that everybody knew, Francis Ford Coppola, Hollywood, director. We used to bring all of them in one event.
That sounds like amplification at its best.
Yes. Now, everyone was shocked, and the media called it the World Cup of branding.
Wow.
Yes. In fact, the Fortune magazine and BBC called it the Davos of branding. This is after 1 year, right? So this is an example of amplification. Okay? You can also reframe an event completely and make it completely experiential. Right? You can do the opposite. This, the example I gave was a Big Bang experience.
Yeah.
It was very expensive. And you know how much one event used to cost? I used to be the chairman of the company. Every event was $2.2 to $2.5 million.
Wow.
And you had people from 37 countries that participated, 600 to 800 people from 37 countries. That is about going big. You can also go small and very, very experiential. That is about reframing the solution. You can conceptually blend it. You can create a hybrid program, partly digital, partly real and live, partly completely intimate and experiential, right? In one program, right? So that's a way of reframing a program. So there are many, many ways to do it. And, this is a very broad question. So I can take a long time responding to this question if I knew your category. But because you said the creative category and services category, you can, if you're a service sector, let's say a bank, why should a bank look like a bank? Why can't a bank look like a cafe? Convert the whole bank into a cafe, right? See, this is reframing, right? So, wow, you can use all the 5 tools in the service sector.
Yeah, that's good. And even the workshop today is minimization, right? Because for this innovation workshop, we usually run it for our clients. It can go up to 3-4 days, So, and we literally make it so concise, teaching you disruption in under 1 hour, literally. So that is considered.
I've never done that before. This is such a broad, big topic. We've literally brought it down to, it was actually 35 minutes. My session was 35 minutes, including the Q&A and everything. It is slightly over an hour.
This is our first time, guys. All right. Now the next question. This is a really good one. I think a lot of people have asked you as well. Is it possible to incorporate innovation in old school corporation? All right. I suppose maybe a lot of the traditional businesses out there, they may face challenges as well. Let's say if the boss wants to innovate, right? But their employees perhaps are stuck in a certain mindset as well. So how can you encourage these people to innovate?
This is one of the most popular and frequently asked questions. When your organization is very traditional, conservative, it's been around for, let's say, 50 years, 70 years, how do you innovate? There are 2 ways to do it. One is to try and dramatically transform and reinvent the whole organization, bring a new CEO, and go through a whole restructuring program. That's like boiling the ocean.
Wow.
It may work, it may not work, because the culture can reject the new CEO very, very easily, right? Often that's what happens. You know?
Yeah.
But there is a more practical way of doing it. It is to create innovation not across the whole company, but in a small part of the company. And create what I call an island of excellence. Right? Create a small island of excellence. In fact, a lot of American companies do it. Like Google, a lot of people may not know this. Google has an entity called X. Earlier it was called Google X. Now these guys create, it's a coming together of artists, of engineers, of entrepreneurs, of scientists, to create what they call moonshot ideas. Crazy ideas. Like the self-driving car, autonomous cars, it comes from Google. You know, Google created these balloons, they're called the loons, which create free Wi-Fi, right? Now, so create a small part of your organization, an island of excellence, right? And when this island of excellence becomes so amazing, everybody starts to emulate them. And slowly that excellence starts to cascade across the organization. That's a second way to do it. A third way to do it is they call it skunk works. Creating skunk works. Skunk works means create an entity outside the company. It's also part of your company. Don't bring it into your business because your business may reject them, right? In fact, Xerox had this incredible, what I call an engine of innovation, when they created something called the Palo Alto networks. You know, it's the Palo Alto, in fact, a lot of the great innovations comes from this Palo Alto research labs. It's called PARC, Palo Alto Research, I think, company or something. You know? And they created the laser printer, they created the world's first mouse, they created the first Ethernet, and so on and so forth. But this PARC was created outside the company, not inside Xerox. So these are the three strategies to look at. Don't try to make your whole company innovative. Like I said, that's like boiling the ocean.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Now, there is a very interesting question here. It's by Kwezi Kyung from UCTS. I'm not sure is he perhaps one of the lecturer or a student, but his question is this. Now, instead of applying all these disruptive tools, right, in a business, do you think it can apply to the whole educational sector? Like is it workable, you feel?
Absolutely. In fact, not only is it workable, it has actually worked. It's like this, one of the pioneers in this space is a gentleman called Sir Ken Robinson. You know? Now, let me give you a little anecdote because it's a very big and deep question. This was a study that I did based on another study that I read. When you walk into kindergarten and ask this question, how many of you children are creative? I've actually done this. Every child raises his or her hands. Everybody, all children 5, 6, 7 years old, when you ask them the question, are you creative? Are you an artist? They all say, yes, I am.
Oh.
And then talk to these kids when they are 12 years old. Okay? When they are probably in their 7th standard, or whatever you call it in Malaysia. Ask them whether you're creative. You will suddenly find that 50% will raise their hands. Then visit the same students when they're 15 years old. Go to that class and ask them, how many of you students are creative? You know what? 20% will raise their hands. See, what this means is the longer you're in education, the more less creative you end up feeling you are, right? And everyone is creative, but because you're told you're not creative or you don't have the platforms to express yourself, you end up closing that creative door. So can you completely reform and transform education? You absolutely can. It needs a very inspiring leader to do it.
Yeah.
And then you need an inspiring policy for that, right? And then you need that policy to translate across the entire education spectrum with the teachers, because teachers need to be completely retaught how to teach students, right? In fact, most students get demoralized by teachers. You know, you have no idea, you know, a lot of my friends say, I'm poor in math. Then you dig deeper into this, you will find that they're poor in math because they had a poor math teacher,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
Yeah. So the short answer is yes. The long answer is, you know, some of the stories and anecdotes I shared with you.
All right, thank you so much, Karthik. Now, there's a very similar one, because just now you did mention that, you know, the leader is really important.
In fact, if you allow me,
Yeah.
I've studied in a school for many years which had no exams.
Oh,
Yeah. You know, and we were just allowed to explore. We were taught dancing, we were taught art, you know, we were taught a whole set of subjects, and there were just no exams, you know. And 1 year we had exams, but it was with a book. Because that school believed that why should you be, why should you do an exam in this kind of a format? Because the purpose of education is to make you think, it is to make you explore. And you know, in the final year, this was amazing, all the students got straight A's.
wow.
Because they were so powerful, they were so well prepped and prepared, right? Because what the school did was it encouraged this desire and passion for learning rather than imposing stuff on different students, right? So, you know, this is an example of one school being very inspiring and completely disrupting how education needs to be delivered. Yeah,
Wow.
sorry, that was a bit of a detour. Yeah.
No problem, but it's so cool. Well, was this the school that you mentioned your classmates were in the White House, and then there's a...
Yeah, you know, a lot of my classmates went on
They
to
were
do amazing things.
outstanding, right?
They were outstanding because we were never told we were not good enough.
Yeah.
Everybody just thought we were great because nobody graded us. Because how can you grade a child, you know? You know, a child may be a dancer, but if you ask the child to do math, it's not going to do well. A child may be an architect, but if you ask the child to do to write essays, the child is going to be a disaster. That's why Howard Gardner came out with this concept of multiple intelligence. Like spatial intelligence, you know, verbal intelligence, you know, analytical intelligence, and kinesthetic intelligence, and so on. So that's pretty much my response. I know I've kind of digressed a little bit. Over to you. Yeah.
All right. Now, just like you mentioned the importance of the leader and also the policy. Now, this question is this, all right? Because the nature of disruptive innovation is, you know, breaking or challenging the existing rules, correct? What are your thoughts when the regulating authority are not being supportive to your idea?
Okay. You know what? Nobody at the highest levels is going to be supportive of your idea. This is what I've learned, you know, the very, very difficult way.
Yeah.
So create an island of excellence, right? Do it differently. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is do not do disruptive innovation, do incremental innovation.
Ah, that's good.
Do it slowly.
That's good.
Do it consistently. You know, one step after the other. Suddenly, what you create is amazing, right? So, if you cannot do disruptive innovation, island of excellence. If you cannot do that, do it incrementally.
All right, that's good. Now, on to the next question. If I use one of the tools to transform my business, so this is by Bernard from UCTS as well. If I use one of the tools to transform my business and the business does not go well, should I continue the business or should I change the innovation tool?
See, the tool is just a tool, right? The tool is neither good nor bad. In fact, the tool is always good. It is always the person using the tool. See, suppose I give a samurai sword
Yeah, yeah.
to a child, it'll cut itself.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic tool. But if I give it to a samurai warrior, you know, the person will do incredible things with it. So my advice to you is this, you know, The tool opens up opportunities for you. But ultimately, you as the leader must use those opportunities effectively. You got to use your common sense. You got to use your intelligence. The tool can only open the door, right? So always be very, very clear that there is the tool, and then there is the leader who's deploying the tool. Use your intelligence. If something is not working, ask yourself what is not working. And I can promise you this, the answer is not going to be the tool is not working. It is actually the leader that has made some error or miscalculation.
All right, that's good. I know we are running out of time a little bit, but just one last question, Karthik. Because for the whole of today, we've learned how to use disruptive tool, right? In your opinion, is there any scenario whereby a business should actually avoid using disruption to innovate?
Short answer is no. Disruptive innovation involves a little bit of pain because when you disrupt, you're actually breaking the rules, right?
Correct.
And generally, Asians tend to follow rules rather than break rules, right? So it involves pain. There's no question about it. But then there is no gain without pain. I always say this, there is no spark without friction. In fact, one of the books I wrote was actually called Spark.
That's right.
See, spark only comes when there is friction. So don't be scared of friction. Manage friction, right? But if disruptive innovation is too painful, go for incremental innovation, which is a less painful approach, and it's an easier approach. And nobody's going to get pissed off if you incrementally innovate.
Yes, because ultimately, like what Karthik said right in the beginning, innovation is about using a new way to solve an old problem, right? So whichever way you look at it, innovation is still really effective and still really powerful. All right, I think we have come to the end of today's session. We want to really thank iCube Innovation again for partnering with us to make this R.A.I.S.E workshop happen. Now, just one last reminder, 1 month from now, we are going to have another virtual workshop again, just like this one, free of charge. 10 questions every successful entrepreneur must ask themselves. If you're interested in that, do scan a QR code or go to the bit.ly link. Again, it's capital sensitive, R.A.I.S.E strategy, all right? And the last one, for Startup X, I really want to share my conviction to you, all right? You do not want to miss out Startup X. And it's truly going to help your business, especially in this time whereby there's so much uncertainties, and so many challenges that the business has to go through, on top of the pandemic and all that. Why not, Karthik, do you have anything that you would like to share about Startup X before we go?
Sure. Startup X was actually created because most new entrepreneurs keep making the same mistakes again and again and again. They fall into the same traps. Often they don't even know what they don't know. And Startup X helps entrepreneurs make new mistakes, make fresh mistakes. Don't make the usual mistakes every single entrepreneur makes. That's number one. Make original mistakes. The second thing that Startup X does is this. It takes learnings from thousands of startups and distills it into this short program so that you learn from the mistakes, build from the mistakes that other people have made, right? And you're able to navigate your journey in a relatively smooth way. So that's the second very important takeaway from this program. See, the third takeaway is this. If you're an entrepreneur and if you're a startup, let's face it, the odds are stacked against you. It's like gambling. When you go to a casino, only 5 or 10% are going to win, 90% are going to lose their money, right? So Startup X is about getting you to be in that 5 or 10% that has a better chance of winning rather than the 90% that end up losing. So my summary is this. Startup X is really designed to maximize the success of an entrepreneur, particularly if you're a startup or an SME, and to minimize the possibility and chances of failure. It's pretty much as simple as that.
Wow. All right. Again, the promotion is only for you guys, exclusively for you guys who have never done this before. 40% off only for this weekend. All right. We wish to see you 1 month from now for the next virtual workshop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.